What's going on, guys? We are back. Hey, check it out. We got a jam-packed video. Okay, we've got brand new Magyar's birds drone footage, brand new SBU Alpha drone footage, brand new K2 drone team footage, and a brand new Preston Stewart video that we're gonna watch about the Flamingo cruise missile that hit super deep into Russia. So we got a lot going on here, man. Before we jump into it, please like, share, subscribe. We have been smashing the subs and the likes and the comments. Thank you guys, man. Every comment, every like, every share dramatically helps push these videos through YouTube's ever-changing algorithm. So thank you. The more people we can get eyes on this war, on this content, the better. Lastly, we've got John and Patrick. We're still hoping them get their drone team up and working. You guys have been killing it. I believe we're already at like 1,100 of the 3,700 USD that they need to basically start working and destroying the Russian invaders. Watch this real quick.
Hello everyone from Different Breed. My name is John from Sweden. This is Patrick from Norway. We've been in Ukraine for 4 years now. We are transitioning into drones and we're taking drone classes right now, and we need your help. We are launching a fundraiser for controllers, ground station cables, antennas, and goggles. We're very thankful for all you guys' help up until this point. It means a lot to us, and a lot of the work we've been doing down here wouldn't be possible without you guys' help. So we truly appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, and Slava Ukraini! Героям слава!
Okay, so if you are willing and able and you want to see your money go to something very, very good, where you'll actually even see results from where you donate your money, consider donating to these guys. PayPal link below, okay? Let's jump into it. This is SBU Alpha first. Hold on, I know I'm big. Oh, shit. You know, a lot of people seem to think that I want to play this kind of content because, you know, I'm just an evil warmonger, which, you know, that might be partially true. But the rest of it is the fact that if people can see this, they're starting, I think they can start to realize, they'll start to have real tangible evidence of all the people dying in this war. We're watching, they're dropping new videos of like this every single day, dude. Look at, I mean, he just gave up. That's it. So, again, you're not going to find sympathy for me when we're dealing with people who voluntarily signed a contract to come and rape, murder, and pillage a free nation. You're not going to get sympathy from me when we're watching them get smoked here, but and probably not from any of the viewers here either. So if you're going to be soft as baby shit, you might want to check out a different channel. All right, let's move on to Preston. Oh, that's a solid photo, Preston. There, sorry, my boy. Let's watch this video. It's a short one. It's like 10 minutes, and we'll wrap up with some more drone content.
So Russian mill blogger Alexander Kotz has had enough. He said it's time to take the gloves off and finally win this war. Quote, maybe it's time to stop waging war according to the chivalrous code and start hitting the ruling elite of Ukraine. But here's the problem. Ukraine has the initiative on the battlefield right now, not Russia. Russia is constantly adapting, trying to react and respond to new Ukrainian innovations and tactics that are causing damage not just in the war zone, but deep inside of Russian territory itself. In fact, last night, we got a new Ukrainian launch of their FP5 Flamingo cruise missiles that impacted one.
Hold on. Sorry, my friend. before we continue into the cruise missile story, that he mentioned a statement from that Russian mill blogger who said maybe it's time to stop abiding by this chivalrous code, insinuating that somehow Russia is abiding by their own type of Geneva Conventions or rules of warfare or international law. No. You guys have been checking every box that it says not to check in regards to things you don't do in war. So I thought that was funny when I just heard Preston say that. But he also made a great point. He says the Russians don't have the initiative anymore. And I've said this in my last couple of videos, but in my opinion, this is the first time I've seen this in my last 3.5 years in the country. It's always the tide of power, the tide of power has always been on Russia's side. Ukraine feels like they've always been on their back foot, always defending, right? Until lately. Now Ukraine is actually has they have their foot forward and they're advancing, in my opinion.
1,500 kilometers inside of Russian territory. That is where the war sits 4 years in. Now, turning to a Russian assessment of this situation and how they're trying to deal with it right now, Rybar said, quote, "The armed forces of Ukraine continue to overload all types of air defense systems of the Russian armed forces, which allows them to achieve significant goals, as happened again this week in two ops. A single oil refinery or other factory does not create critical damage to the domestic economy, but the systematic work of the enemy is making itself felt. The door is open." All right, and we talked about this during the coverage of the two ops strikes a couple days ago. The Russian citizens in these areas are getting frustrated. They're saying, does Moscow just not care about us? Why were more air defense assets not surged into this location? How on earth are these major refineries not protected? And in two ops, what we saw was at least three, maybe four Ukrainian strikes in the course of a month, where these massive fires would rage. And then as soon as Russia got them under control, about 3-4 hours later, the Ukrainian unmanned systems forces would launch another wave of drone attacks, and a lot of them got through, or at least enough to cause significant damage. And we are seeing that play out over and again all across Russia. The reason for that is that over the course of the last few years, Ukraine has opened the air defense corridors throughout the country. We just got more footage a couple days ago of the Ukrainian unmanned systems forces showing what they did in terms of the elimination of Russian air defense during the month of April, where they said they took out 38 Russian air defense systems.
We watched this too. We watched this yesterday or the other day too. I was just going to mention this actually.
25 anti-aircraft missile systems and 13 radar and electronic warfare systems. Throughout this footage, they say they took out 7 Tor missile systems and 5 Tor M2 missile systems. Real quick, so that's 12 Tors, T-O-R. Unknown exactly how many of these Russia has, but for a rough estimate, the International Institute for Strategic Studies says that as of 2005, Russia had 120 Tor systems. So 12 destroyed in April out of an estimated 120 total. 10% reduction in that one system in a month is a problem for Russia. They also talked about 5 Buck systems destroyed, 3 Pansirs. We got, let's see what else here. A Nebo M radar, an S-400 complex radar. A lot of air defense destroyed. They said, quote, "Successive and regular destruction of air defense systems at the operational level opens up corridors for deepening the strike on military and energy facilities in the swamps. So be it. Keep your eyes peeled." And that's exactly what is happening here, right? So every single one of these systems that gets destroyed, or at the very least damaged, opens up another corridor. It takes an area from being 100% protected to 95, 90, 80%. It creates paths. Every one of these Ukrainian drone launches is gathering data to find out where are the electronic warfare systems, where are the radars, where are the Russian missile systems that will be able to intercept these drones. Every single launch gathers data. Ukraine iterates on that, and then next thing you know, they're slinging larger and larger munitions through these gaps. Like last night, when they fired the Flamingo missile deep inside of Russian territory. Ukrainian President Zelensky said, quote, "Last night, combat launches of FP-5 Flamingo cruise missiles were carried out as part of the Armed Forces deep strike operation against several enemy targets, including military-industrial complex facilities in Cheboksary." I'm going to pronounce that different each time. I think. Just a little bit of a warning. They say the Ukrainian Flamingos covered a distance of more than 1,500 kilometers. The targeted military production facility produced relay production systems, automation equipment, and low-voltage apparatus. The plant supplied navigation elements for the Russian Navy, the rocket industry, aviation, and armored vehicles, all of which Russia is using in their war against Ukraine. Some additional details here from the Ukrainian Unmanned Systems Forces. They say they also hit the Kirsky refinery, KINEF, I guess is the acronym there, in the Leningrad region. They say the plant's capacity is 21 million tons of oil per year, making it one of the 3 largest refineries in the country. Explosions and fires were recorded at both enterprises. The consequences of the strikes are being clarified. So again, the door is being opened. Russia has less and less ability to protect the entirety of the country. It's a big country. It takes a lot of air defense to effectively defend it at baseline. But as those air defense are being depleted day after day after day, and Ukraine is extending the strike campaign further into Russia's rear, it's causing a real problem. And again, when you have the 3rd largest refinery in the country getting hit by multiple Ukrainian drones, it's an issue for Russia. Russia analysts here, military inform.
I want to just break in here. We've been watching, and I've been deliberately pulling up these drone strike videos of us, and by us I mean Ukrainian drone teams striking air defense systems. When you start adding everything together, right? When you start adding in the fact that Russia's economy has been taking a drastic decline over the last 4 years. When you start taking into consideration their allies, Venezuela and Iran, Venezuela eliminated as an ally altogether, Iran being eliminated as we speak, this is another downtrend for Russia's success on the battlefield. So you got the economy, you've got their military allies, you've got Putin's favorability in the country. We're starting to see more and more and more dis-ease or dissatisfaction with Putin between the Russian people. People are seeing that their hometowns are getting attacked and there are no Russian government assets dispatched to help them rebuild. Right? So people are like, what are we doing? Like, number one, we didn't sign up for this war. Number two, now we're suffering for it and you're not helping us. Something that I've seen kind of behind the scenes a bit in some talks with, I guess some higher ups is what I would call them, is the farming and like agricultural sector of Russia has taken a massive hit because of some of the ongoing pressure from Ukraine, and they're not being helped by the Russian government. So this is a massive multi-billion-dollar industry in Russia, is agriculture, these massive crops and fields and livestock and stuff. So they are basically almost going on like a strike against the Russian government. So we're starting to see more and more of these things, which all lead to this overall downtrend in Russia's success on the battlefield and in Russia's campaign in Ukraine.
It said, last night, the armed forces of Ukraine launched at least 5 FP-5 Flamingo cruise missiles, which, according to available data, only one reached the plant in the city of Shebeskari. I think I am getting that different each time. It said most likely the enemy was aiming at one of the production facilities. There's no point in hitting offices at night. However, the well-known low accuracy of the Flamingo led to a significant deviation. The remaining 4 out of 5 missiles were most likely intercepted by air defense systems on their way and or fell somewhere else. Low accuracy, I mean, at the same time, like, you know, if it's hitting the general complex, of course you want to hit the production facility, but if you're talking about missing by a couple hundred meters at 1,500 kilometers, that's pretty significant for a homegrown missile industry in the middle of a war. So either way, looks like it does look like the Flamingo may have missed that the actual production facility, maybe hit the offices nearby. Now, the Russian Ministry of Defense said that they were able to intercept 6 Flamingo missiles and 601 Ukrainian drones. That's a ton. I mean, it goes back to the Rybar assessment at the beginning of this video where they said that Ukrainian drones are overwhelming their air defense systems. That will do it. 600 drones will overwhelm Russian air defense. It's not a matter of so many being over one target that they can't all be shot down. It's they are flying in every direction. There's too much for Russia to try to protect. They do not have enough assets on the ground to effectively protect everything. They have to prioritize what gets protected and what doesn't. Kind of an interesting thing to keep in mind as the Victory Day parade comes up here in the next few days. Russia has announced a unilateral ceasefire on, I think, the 8th and the 9th. Ukraine followed that with their own ceasefire on the 7th and 6th and 7th. I think that's going to be interesting to keep an eye on. We'll see which way it goes. But either way, if Russia actually wants to protect that parade from any Ukrainian long-range drone strikes, they're just pulling from elsewhere. And they only have so many to go around at this point. And more Russian analysts are starting to see this. Mill blogger Maxim Klishnikov earlier today said, quote, "On the front, there's an obvious stalemate. The armed forces of Ukraine are capturing the lower sky. How to advance in such conditions when logistics are also being hit? And if the war drags on, large factories will start shutting down. The first budget crisis will hit the regions with unpaid salaries for teachers, doctors, utility workers, and regional officials. An attempt at mass conscription of reservists would be like a lit match in a gunpowder store. We need to somehow win and pull Ukraine out of the war. How? Otherwise, we'll have to accept terms somewhere between Trump and Zelensky, and with a regime in Kyiv that will openly mock us." And you can understand how they get to that point because every single day we're getting more and more footage of these medium to long-range Ukrainian strikes inflicting pretty significant damage to Russia. Shortly after that assessment put together by Klishnikov, the Ukrainian GUR released this footage showing once again more strikes, significant strikes against Russian military infrastructure in Crimea. They say the BE-12 Chaika aircraft, 3 boats, and a supply ship of the occupiers, another trophy of the ghosts of the main intelligence directorate of the armed forces of Ukraine in Crimea. They say this all took place during an operation in 2026 where the scouts hit a series of targets related to the amphibious assault capabilities, maritime support, and the aviation component of the enemy. They say the following targets were hit and disabled: 3 amphibious assault boats, a supply ship, a hangar for storing amphibious assault boats, an anti-submarine amphibious aircraft BE-12 Chaika. This is what is becoming the norm. Again, 600 plus drones fired by Ukraine in one night into Russian territory. This is what you start to see more and more of. It's not just that these strikes are coming out almost every day, but they're happening deeper inside of Russia, and they're having more and more effects, right? Whether it's refineries going up in smoke, ships being hit, we'll see if they're sunk or just damaged, aircraft being hit on the runways. This is a trend. We've been moving in this direction now for at least the last 4, 5, maybe 6 months. And so long as Ukraine continues this medium-range strike campaign to eliminate Russian air defense assets, you are only going to see more and more fires popping up inside of Russia at critical locations like refineries and production facilities. Now, as a quick update on a fundraiser, we just delivered our 10th vehicle to the 104th Territorial Defense Brigade yesterday, working with Car for Ukraine, great organization, year-long campaign. Our spring offensive is 94,000 euros out of a 97,000 euro goal. And what they do is a great organization here. So we know that trucks are incredibly important at the front. One of the challenges that the soldiers have had over the course of the last few years is they get a donated truck or they save up until they can buy like the cheapest one possible. And they finally get it out to the unit and it needs like thousands of dollars worth of repairs. Mm-hmm. That's not what Car for Ukraine does. They solve all those problems before they deliver. So I'll run a couple of pictures here on the screen of the trucks already delivered. They source these across Europe, high quality, and they ask the unit, what is it you need? What version do you prefer? It has to be relatively new, has to be under a certain mileage. Ukraine or the Car for Ukraine folks then add on new tires. They add additional armor protection in some of the doors, some steel plating on the inside. They run it through all the checks and services, so when the vehicle actually gets to the soldiers, it can be put into operational use right away, and there's no risk of this thing breaking down like on their first mission. So there's a reason I've teamed up with Car for Ukraine, incredible organization doing really, really important work, and proud to say that all of us together are well on our way to 35 vehicles delivered this year to the 104th Territorial Defense Brigade. For those interested and able in contributing, that link will be in the pinned comment and description below.
I want to piggyback on that because I had the opportunity to be with Preston when he had some here in Ukraine when Preston came over, and I was there when Cars for Ukraine came and delivered a couple of their trucks, and they are they're next level. This company, it's really cool. I don't think it's it can be stressed enough, the point that he's making, that there's a lot of cars donated to Ukraine and they are on their last legs when they get here. Um, Between, engine transmission problems, pretty much like major functional issues with the vehicle where it's like it's almost kaput. And then it gets here, and then the boys who need it to operate at 100% with 100% confidence receive these vehicles and they break down, right? Most of the time when they pull into Lviv, the furthest western city in Ukraine, they're and the soldiers will pick them up and try to bring them east. They're breaking down multiple times all the way to get back east. So a company that's doing this, that's fixing up the vehicles, making sure they're solid, and adding armor, dude, I got to feel the armor that was in these vehicles. This is serious shit. I was very impressed. So I just want to piggyback on that. If you want to help out with this campaign, it's a really cool one, and Preston's partnered up with a really cool company, Cars for Ukraine. All right, we'll wrap up with that one there. I wanted to show a couple more drone clips. So this is K2. You may remember K2 in the earlier couple years of the war. They had some of the most videoed, the most recorded assault missions. They came out pretty, they're pretty gnarly, where you would watch either K2 holding a position and Russians were assaulting them, or K2 was doing the assault on the Russian positions. But regardless, they are a very battle-tested unit, and I actually didn't even know they had a drone team, but which is silly because it's mandatory that every single unit that has infantry has drones now. It's almost, there'll be some arguing about this, but it's almost more important for Ukrainian units to have a drone team than an infantry unit. So let's watch this real quick. I got to mute it because, well, maybe not. So these are the fixed wing strikes that I've talked about with you guys. They look like little balsa wood model planes that they basically just strap a motor and a bomb to and a camera. They have much longer range than your standard FPVs, but you can tell by the way these are flying, they're much more stable. It's less of this like an FPV. I'm not sure if all these are fixed wings, but I mean, this is nuts, dude. Just the sheer amount of strikes that we're seeing come out of these different units. This is a completely different unit than the SBU Alpha that we watched, than Magyar's Birds that we watch, than that team in Preston's video that hit the boats, the ghosts. And to me it's super interesting and almost ironic. Oh boy. Sorry. It's almost ironic that the issues that Ukraine faced at the beginning of the war, where and still do to some extent, but the air defense was too spread out. It was hard to mitigate all of the I gotta make a call here in a minute. Mitigate all of the incoming drone strikes and attacks. That was a really big issue for Ukraine early on, and now that's a main issue for Russia. So over these last 4.5 years, Ukraine has figured out a way to mitigate some of that and solve some of these problems and build more of a defensive network, at least around some of the more major cities and areas that need to be protected. And while Russia's been on full steam ahead attack mode, they have not been preparing for this, for the table to be turned on them. This is actually unreal. So I don't know how, just the sheer amount of assets that are being eliminated here. So all it says is K2 Brigade near Donetsk destroys equipment and controls logistics. So this, theoretically, that could be footage over 6 months or something, right? But regardless, even if it was, that was a lot. And we're talking about one drone unit doing this. Okay, we'll save this one for our next video. We got an interesting one coming up about something that I wanted to watch with you guys about an actual police video in the United States, but it kind of ties into some of the stuff we talk about here. So you guys do me a favor, please like, share, subscribe if you're willing and able to help John and Patrick get their drone unit up and running. Link to their stuff will be in the description below and the pinned comment. I love you guys. We'll see you in the next video.